Hello, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. It's January 18th, second meeting of the new year, and here we are. So let's see. Announcements, highlights. I put these in agenda, but maybe they make a better announcement. 5.10 went to stable, probably just after the last meeting, and 5.2 is out, although I don't know if anyone's tested 5.2 yet. Other announcements?
Well, regarding 5.2, I think there's been a couple of fixes recently and some talk about a 5.2.1. Has anything changed about that?
I am not aware of this talk, but I am happy to create an agenda item for it.
Well, let's discuss. Look at the recent polls that we merged. Yeah, it was a crash with Yara. Stefano might have a comment.
Yeah, so 5.2.0 has been tested by OSS Fuzz. So OSS Fuzz did find a crash in the libyara, which is a bit extended in the sense that most of the time, either if you use a rule or an incorrect rule in a query, you get a crash in this query because there was some incorrect wiring of the library internals. And yeah, I would say this is pretty bad, and we should not really release 5.2.0 as it is. So that's why.
Is this crash new for 5.2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Regarding library changes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it was like a regression in libyara, or like they expected the interface to be used differently in the update?
It's a regression we caused while wiring some internal things of libyara. It uses some string libraries which are shared with other libraries, and to decouple them, we have had to do some magic, but that magic wasn't working correctly. Yeah.
Are there other crashes or things we should think about trying to get into a fix?
Was the only one that I was aware of.
Yeah.
Alessandro has some BPF PR open, but I don't know if that's a 5.2 fix. I mean, I see plenty of PRs that fix things, but I don't know if any of them were bugs introduced in 5.2.
No, it's not a bug introduced in 5.2. It is a bug that has always been there. Yeah, it started with a broken chain of if and as if. So I ended up fixing it and introducing a test specifically for that. And I've improved a little bit the protocol detection. It will only really matter when you are either losing events or you are tracing strange programs that will not specify the protocol in any way. It should be rare, but
Okay,
it is useful to have it.
So if we bounce back to 5.2, sorry, Stefano, you think this merits a point release?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and do you think we should do that like today, or do you think we should wait for anything else that might come in?
I don't think so. I think it's fine to do it today.
Okay, I can try and cut that today, and if I don't manage today, I'll try to do it this week.
So if we merge 33 on the Osquery code sign repository, we can redistribute some test packages to our customers.
Yeah, we
can do that even without merging that, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't merge it.
Yeah, the Osquery code sign is the next item of business. We would really like to see that merged so that we can make testable packages for the pre-release.
Mike, we can make testable packages for pre-release. You can build the code. You can run code signing workflows off any branch.
True, they won't be on the release page though for artifact download.
Yeah, they will.
They will?
That's how I made the existing 5.2 packages. The GitHub work. So, okay, since not everyone can see this repository or the workflows therein, the way releases work is we have a code sign repository, which we keep private just to kind of keep random people from screwing with the credentials that are inherently in GitHub. And you manually trigger a GitHub workflow. So that goes through like their weird little actions UI. There is a drop-down in that thing that says what branch of this repository are you running this on. So you can, it defaults to being run on main, but you can just as easily select a PR branch. Alessandro, I will try and review that again. I think you probably fixed everything I noticed in it, so I think we can probably merge it, but I'll try and review it.
All right.
I want to bounce up a few sections. I'm sorry, I jumped us into a 5.2 conversation. Do we have any questions or issues that anyone from the broader community would like to discuss that maybe doesn't get a full agenda item, or just anyone feeling like they want to bring a question?
Hey, who wrote NTFS journal events?
That was a Journal Events employee named Will.
Okay. Just had someone, there's someone in the Windows channel who's been asking questions about errors generated from that table, and they've been asking me as well. Just wondering if anyone might know the answers.
There is an issue open. Sorry. I think the issues are, I mean, there might be improvements to be done. We have to have a look at that again. We would have to have a look at that again. But I think that the major issue was around what NTFS caches or gives you in the journal, so that sometimes it tries to find entries for a specific file path and it doesn't find that in the cache anymore. So it cannot retrieve metadata for the file, and so you have that error.
Should we just not throw an error?
I mean, I don't know. I guess this is more useful for a developer, meaning that the user. So actually, most of the cases, the user cannot do much with any table. But if it's too noisy, we could maybe put it as verbose. I'm not pretty familiar though right now how much verbose that is, how often that is something that can be ignored, although I don't think it really can be. And I guess that still maybe the user wants to know when something is not fully working, otherwise they cannot report an issue if something the user doesn't know that something isn't working.
I would say something. So I'm not sure you're talking about the right thing. If I do a quick look at the issues, I see a couple of NTFS issues. One of them is 6992, which is about like FRN errors, which the reporter says is due to API version skew. I don't know much about this. That seems to be the error that is currently being talked about on Slack. Talked about is a strong word, but someone asked about it.
So there's also 6848, which is similar and older.
6848, I didn't see that one.
Actually, 5848.
5848. Oh my God, how old did we go?
Yeah.
5848. Yeah, it does look awfully similar. And then I think the one you're maybe talking about a little more is like 6992, which is no, excuse me, we talked about that one. Is maybe 7195, which is about like an old name, new name record mapping error, which sounds like the kind of thing where you might get one piece of data in the cache that doesn't exist, or is.
Yeah.
But what I'd say is if there are cases where we call an API and we expect that API to sometime return inconsistent data such that like there's a subsequent error working with it, I don't think we should trickle that up into an errors channel, because like that's kind of an expected error case. Like throughout the OSX side of the code, there's a bunch of places where we like, attempt to read a P list and process it, right? And if the P list isn't there, we shouldn't trigger an error. That's just doesn't exist here. You get no data.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But
no, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but like I'm not totally sure, right? I feel like if someone is then trying to be like, hey, why doesn't this work? The answer should be give us verbose logs, right? Like we need more information.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. I would have to. Well, again, someone would have to have a better look into it. I cannot say. I mean, the general idea you are presenting me seems fine, seems correct, but yeah, I don't recall the details. But what I recall, so yes, there's another issue, secondary issue where there is a selection of APIs to use, but it is based on compiled definitions. So we are only actually selecting one of them, which is, I think, the Windows 10 one. So our build, official build, will not work correctly on Windows 7. And so, yeah, this is what I think it's, issue 6992 is talking about.
I feel like we were talking about this a little bit in the context of CentOS 6 recently too, of what versions do we target?
Yeah.
CentOS 6.
CentOS 6 is what we currently target.
Yeah. So
And
should we bump it to CentOS 7?
Well, as an Osquery developer, I would like to bump it to CentOS 7. As a steward of the project, we did have a request to please keep it from a vendor because a vendor has a large CentOS 6 install base.
But is it about the issue that they opened, or is it someone else that you were in contact with?
It's probably the issue. It's probably that person.
I see. Yeah, that specific version has been through two different end of life dates.
Yes.
And at some point, they should really consider upgrading those machines.
I don't.
If it wasn't a burden for the maintainers, because we have incompatibility issues, I wouldn't care too much. But we do have an issue.
I'm very conflicted. As said, as a Osquery developer, I would favor dropping CentOS 6, but as sort of a steward of the project, I'm more cautious.
I don't know if this is like too aggressive, but could we suggest to these very large looking vendors that they either like contribute a substantial donation to the Osquery project to hire a developer to do that support, or that they do the support themselves with the support of the community?
Patches.
I was about to do the same, but then I wanted to ask you first if it was something worth mentioning in issue.
I think it'd be reasonable. I think we'd want to think about what to ask for. because they are contributing patches to achieve that goal. So, do we not like their patches?
Do we have a life cycle model? Any sort of explicit? Okay.
Not a formal one.
No, I think the only time it was, I think, a couple of years ago or last year, when I initially put forward the idea of leaving CentOS 6 behind, was that we would at least have tried to keep 1 year, at least wait 1 year of 1 year after the last EOL, but not any extended maintenance support, which normally we also do not have access to. Eric actually dropped.
Does anyone know like how much work it's going to create to continue supporting CentOS 6?
So yeah, the other thing is that I will be careful anyway to say how much we want to go with the model, even having someone that works on it, or at least say how we want to do it, like maybe splitting. This is just an example, but like maybe actually splitting versions, because there are things, I think, from CentOS 6, or the fact that we are supporting CentOS 6 that blocks us or makes our life pretty difficult if you want to support newer things. And so, yeah, that doesn't only extend on. So the need we have doesn't only contains the supporting the CentOS 6 part, but also creating a system where we can use newer stuff and not be dragged down by the old version. Now, how much it takes? So the thing is, we have to. So right now, we have a problem with the toolchain where we are not using the correct kernel header versions. We should be redoing that. That doesn't require too much time. Actually, I've already started it, but again, the time is not. I mean, it needs. I need time, but then we have to regenerate all the 42 libraries against that new toolchain and the new. The new toolchain. Full stop. Sorry, on CentOS 6, and
I guess we also have the problem.
Like 200. Sorry.
I guess we also have the problem that we're going to have to split kernel headers. So the toolchain also needs to take into account multiple different systems. So
not really on the toolchain, I would say. I mean, okay, depends. But I think that maybe Osquery has to create an interface that can distinguish in various cases which version of kernel it is using and define its own types, and switch on the correct one when when it is on a version or the other. There are cases we are not directly reading from the netlink socket right now. We are using another way, but if we were, for instance, going to read the netlink packets, there is a difference between definition and sizes of those packets that you need to make, and so you cannot use the standard headers from the toolchain itself. And so you need to create this split. So there is a considerable amount of work.
So I was wondering how many of the third-party libraries we're going to use are going to be affected by this. Like, let's say we have some functions in the glibc that access headers that are different on CentOS 6 and on CentOS 8. We will still have to do this switch at runtime based on the kernel version we detect, and it's not really easy to split this type of access inside the third-party libraries. So the larger the gap between the recent and the old system is, the harder it is to keep it working.
Yeah, this is already happening. I mean, the libraries are, well, there are some libraries that do support this correctly, other that probably maybe not. We haven't yet seen effect, but yeah, it's definitely likely. There are structures that have changed, again, that are public and that have changed during the kernel history. And what else? Yeah, the other thing, again, I also noticed that if we don't, at least I think it's a problem with libc, but I tried to compile one of the latest versions of LLVM with our oldest libc, and while it would compile the compiler itself then wasn't able to generate, well, it had linking errors, problems with constructing the ELF, which were very suspect. So at a certain point, also the LLVM toolchain will not support the older libc indefinitely. So
could it be a reasonable compromise for us to like try to like drop support for CentOS 6, but say that we'll backport any security fixes in Osquery back to the latest version that does support CentOS 6?
Yeah, that was I was mentioning initially. As an example, we can split releases in the sense that, yeah, you have the release that uses the old stuff, and the only issue is resources, especially on the CI, I would say.
Sure, but also from a technical perspective, you're going to get version drift, and the maintenance burden is going to get greater, right? Because you're going to have older and older libraries, and you not only have to do the technical work to backport the fixes to something, but resources to understanding if there is a compromise, and that's going to be kind of more and more time over time.
Yeah, that is, though, granted that we have someone helping us. So honestly, yeah, this is not a solution for us alone.
Yeah,
I feel like we
I
haven't
would say, but yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen a lot of security fixes across the lifetime of Osquery. They've been relatively few and far between. So my suspicion is that generally people are most interested in the, like, no, I want the new stuff. I want that new table, right? Like, I submitted a fix. I want my fix, more than sort of concerned about backporting security fixes. I feel like, Stefano, listening to you, a lot of that I didn't really understand. I'm not that deep in the C++ dependencies, so I don't really understand if it is reasonable for us to sort of create a system wherein we support both, or if sort of the day we always knew was coming where we would just not be able to keep supporting the old one is just rapidly approaching. So like there's some suggestions for how to handle the RPM packages thing, but that doesn't handle the IP tables problem that we have, or the kernel headers problem that we have, or whatever the next thing that explodes is. So I feel like there's a little bit of some things are tractable and some things are not tractable.
I say that because if you're using third-party libraries, because everything else we can, with the right amount of people and work, we can fix it. But for third-party libraries, it's harder. Like if there is funding specifically targeting this, we can think about a solution.
Well, let's assume someone said they would fund an engineer, right, or something. Totally hypothetical, or maybe someone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
As Eric mentioned, we will have people working directly on these libraries, making sure that the contact points between Osquery and the headers of the kernel are somehow filtered, dropped.
So the goal would be to have any libraries that we depend on correctly support CentOS 6. So the Osquery stance would be we support whatever librpm uses, and then librpm would sort of own the CentOS 6 support.
Kind of. We need to be able to switch to two different librpm implementations based on the kernel on which we are running at the time. That's the complex part.
Yeah,
That sounds like a lot of moving stuff in our runtime.
There's also version compatibility. So I haven't looked into these ever, but I would expect that RPM or Debian might not keep backward compatibility forever. So we may need, we may need to update one of the two libraries, and then that version doesn't work anymore to open databases that are on CentOS 6 or similar. Even only that part is problematic, not only the interface against the kernel or any syscall or any syscall or even libc helper like get auxval.
Right, and so that's where
Alessandro,
switching.
go ahead, Eric.
That's where switching dynamically between two different, librpm2 and librpm3. But since we're talking about statically compiled binaries, right? Every time that we have to do that, the binary size grows, the compilation grows, the linking overhead grows.
Yep, you're right.
Alessandro and Stefano, if you were to give this a level of effort estimate, are we talking this would need a full-time engineer going forward indefinitely, or this needs 2 months of work by a full-time engineer followed by maintenance mode of some hours per release or something? I'd love to get an understanding so that we can come back to those folks and say this is what it would take, and we're not sure how to do that. But I mean, when I think about this, and obviously I don't know how Trail of Bits works, but it makes me think if those folks are motivated enough, maybe they can pay Trail of Bits to do this maintenance. I don't know, you guys don't have to answer now, but that comes to mind for me.
I think it requires,
or maybe they can pay the Osquery Foundation, and Osquery Foundation can pay Trail of Bits.
I think we would have to do an evaluation and determine how much kernel headers are affecting each library. And then the ones that are will have to be refactored, changed so that these structures are abstracted. So, for example, BPF, which we can fix it because we made it, but other things, audit, for example, libaudit, I wouldn't say it is exactly easy to keep those libraries up to date with upstream, but also with the abstractions we need working. So I don't think it's going to be a small effort. But yeah, I'm not going to say it is impossible. With the right amount of people and work, it can be made.
I wonder if there's also something about which tables matter. Is it interesting to push an OS query where the RPM table stops working or the libaudit table stops working or something? And is that fundamentally different than where we are today, where some tables just don't work on the modern distributions?
Yeah, that's another thing we would have to put into an inventory. I guess things like DPKG and RPM are really good with versioning file formats, but that's not something all libraries are doing. So if there's a mismatch of what the library expects, it will just return nothing or crash. Depends on how the library was written.
Alessandro, would you feel comfortable replying on this issue with sort of like your summary of what the unknowns are and like the possible level of effort given those unknowns, and like a request to understand what level of resources they might be willing to put into this kind of stuff? Or if you wouldn't feel comfortable with that, like maybe I'd feel comfortable doing something like that if someone else could help me understand the more technical parts, which I'm just learning about right now. Or
We
do
can
folks think that
prepare-
we should take another tactic?
We can prepare a small draft, then you can take a look at it before we post it.
It may not need to be comprehensive, right? I think some of this is just opening a dialogue, and if they come back and they're like, "Oh, well, we've only got 5 people, we don't care," then we can put the rock down, right? But if they come back and say, "No, let's talk for real,"
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think the main thing is like, do we need to tell them like this project needs multiple full-time engineers, or like this project needs someone to like spend a lot of energy for 2 months? Like, I don't have a good sense of that, and I think that they probably need to go, to their business and understand how important this really is. And so that's the main thing that I would want to get out of that. So I'm with Steph. I don't think it has to be comprehensive, but just enough for them to understand, like, what we're digging into.
I mean, I can post something if you don't feel comfortable, Alessandro, but it would be very similar to like, this turns out to be hard. How important is this to you, really? Because we can talk.
No, we prepare a draft so you can have a look at it and then we can post it.
Okay. Anyone want to say anything else about CentOS 6?
We all hate it on behalf of everyone, I believe.
End of life was 3 months ago. Use a newer operating system.
Yeah,
Same
we're
with
going to upgrade to
1604.
CentOS 5.
Oh, I don't want to talk about CentOS 5.
My partner still supports VMS sometimes.
Okay, but that's a whole different level of bulletproof, right? Like, you leave VMS running in a closet somewhere, you'll probably be fine. Probably.
Going down our list here, it looks like presumably Charvel put up PR7436 for discussion. Output size.
I think it went through like 2 reviews. It just needs a final review. And also, can we add it to the next milestone? I think
I think I clicked it onto the milestone.
Okay.
Though milestones are soft things. Maybe slightly larger. Someone added Wi-Fi networks table technical debt.
I added that as well. Our Wi-Fi networks table has been broken since 2 OS releases because Apple has changed not only the location but the format and the keys and the base 64 encoded. And Wi-Fi networks table is really old. We still like parse like, is it running on Mavericks? Is it running pre-Catalina? Is it running on Catalina? Is it running post-Catalina? I kind of want to remove the old one, or at least make this more robust and kind of, spend more time and effort testing this rather than, older. I can't even get a VM running, so not even worth the time, I think. I think if you can do like Mojave, Catalina, Bixer, Monterey, last
So this
4
is-
years.
Unfortunately, a rehash of our CentOS 6 conversation.
Yeah, sadly.
Wait, do we have a deprecation policy for older operatings? Oh, wait.
My understanding is that Apple does not have an official de-support policy, but the community usually assumes it's the current OS -2.
Yeah.
That's what they push security releases for, yeah.
Occasionally they go even older on security, but yeah, that's like unofficially that's what the community assumes for macOS. My gut sense is that so the Wi-Fi table doesn't work on modern macOS. So
No.
I feel like fixing it to work on modern macOS and perhaps accidentally breaking it for older macOS is strictly better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's too much of a pain to kind of parse two different kind of p-lists with three different kind of dictionary keys, and
So how far back? What are you dropping? You're going back to Mojave, maybe?
I would say Mojave.
yeah, so yeah, I think Mojave Catalina is doable, but I think that this is like from Mavericks era.
My guess is that there are Osquery installs out there that predate Mojave, but we're not talking about dropping platform support. We're talking about shifting one very narrow table
Yeah.
from being very
Yeah,
old to
I-
being new. So
I totally endorse that idea.
Yeah, we went through some of this with the login items table a couple of years back when they changed the format and changed it again. Yeah, there's like 3 different code paths in there to check, I think. Besides, if they need the older versions, there's always the older versions of Osquery.
PKGs, yeah.
manually parse the plist if you really want to.
True.
Okay, Charbel, do you need anything else on this one?
No.
Okay, I assume this is Alessandro with more BPF.
Yeah, sorry, this is an old pull request, but that I have recently updated to include additional event types. We only had the capabilities events, but now we also have ptrace, kernel module loading and unloading, and also accessing devices.
Okay, but what do you need on this PR? Just some review?
Yes, but it has a breaking change. It is going to change the format of the table, the schema. So a review, but also some opinions on whether it's something we want to consider or not.
My first thought is that probably the BPF table doesn't yet see a lot of use. It's still pretty new and pretty hard to use. So to that end, if you think it's reasonable to have a breaking change, it probably is. I would also want to understand whether this necessitates a breaking change or if we can sort of play column games.
I think I played some column games in there with aliases. But yeah, there was also a breaking change. I think I should have mentioned this a little better in the pull request body, so I will update it.
I'm just trying to find the schema file. There's no schema file change here. So what's the breaking change?
Syscall
I
is
changed.
rename to event,
Yeah, exactly.
and
And
command
CMD
line,
line.
there's data and JSON data. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Seth, there is BPF process events table. It's the schema change.
Why am I not finding that?
Maybe you have a file filter on.
No, I was just failing to search for the right thing because I can't remember what we name anything. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm also inclined to agree with Seth that if we need to make a breaking change to this, like, let's do it sooner than later. Because of the early adoption phase of it.
I mean, to be more explicit, I would bet that Alessandro knows everyone who is using this table. Yeah, I think that's the closest to approval that we ever do. So that's pretty good. Maybe just make sure it gets flagged as a breaking change. Oh, we don't have a breaking change label. Oh, let's make one.
We have a API change, I think.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. You're right, we do. Okay, great. There's no labeled API change. I should maybe update our release generation script to like flag those for people or something. I think that's everything people wrote down. Anyone want to say anything else? Anything else people want to talk about?
We need to review the Windows firewall pull request.
I'm sorry.
I will try to take a stab at it.
The which pull request?
Windows firewall.
File vault, did you say?
No, Windows firewall.
Firewall.
Oh, firewall.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
I think
Sorry.
that's already approved.
Oh, great.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
maybe the other one, the Windows Update history,
Yeah.
which is not approved. Yeah.
Can I just click merge on this one?
Which one?
The Windows firewall table?
Shouldn't we try maybe to release 5.1 first?
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So glad you remembered.
Yeah, labeling
Okay.
5.3 is fine for all of these approved.
So
Okay, let me go cut a release. I'll go cut a release right now. Nothing else going into 5.2.1, right?
And then can we run the release notes thing?
I'll try.
The thing that kind of auto populates that I can edit or help edit if you need.
I'll try and put PRs up for changelog. I'm sorry, it's been a long couple of weeks. Okay, there is now a 5.2.1 release, Stefano. I think update really. What are you doing, GitHub? Definitely GitHubbing. Compare. Did I do this all right? Probably. Yeah, looks like it. Okay. Why would you even suggest those words, GitHub?
But yeah, it was update history. Sorry. Yeah, we'll take a look at it this week.
Okay, we should be able to. Let's try and get that stuff merged because that looks really good to get in.
Yeah.
I have now cut 5.2.1. I will try and actually make packages later on today and do all of those things. And I think that means you're free to merge any breaking changes, Windows, wonderful Windows new tables, anything. Game's open.
Is it possible to categorize the pull request right after PBF? It is mine pull request. It's number 74444.
7. I'm sorry. Which one?
7444.
Fixed driver image path.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's see. Anyone up for reviewing this one? Stefano, can I throw you on
Again, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I'll try to give some time this week. I think, yeah, we have that, and also 7440. I think from the same contributor. Thank you. And yeah, the second one is also, I think, we already gave a couple of looks. I think it needs last quick look, but yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Sounds like we can probably get these into a 530, certainly. We'll probably get them merged pretty fast. Thank you, everyone. Okay, other items today? We can just kind of skedaddle for a couple of minutes early. People would like.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for leading us, Seth.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and efforts. And enjoy your 9 minutes.
Have a great week and Happy New Year, y'all. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
You guys.
Bye.